And greetings, everyone. Happy Sunday, and welcome back to the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform for a Sunday afternoon podcast. Thank you so much for being here. I see people are slowly logging in. I'm watching you joining the live. We are currently live on the Always a Queen Facebook page, YouTube page, Twitter page, and Instagram page. So we have people flowing in. Thank you. Don't watch by yourselves today. Call up a friend and have somebody watch with you because this is going to be a very, very important and insightful conversation. My name is Therese Millett Joseph. I am the founder of Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis, a platform that I created 6 years ago because I am very passionate about empowering and uplifting women. If this is the type of content that you think you are interested in seeing, I encourage you to like and subscribe to the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis pages. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. So you can follow us across all of our social media platforms or whichever social media platforms you happen to be on. So today, our topic is caregiver burnout. And this is actually a part two of this discussion because we started talking about caregiver burnout 2 weeks ago. If you haven't caught part one, you can. It was recorded and it is there for you to access free of charge on the Always a Queen pages on YouTube, Twitter, and also on Facebook. You can find the recordings and you're welcome to watch them, share them, download them as many times as you wish. There's absolutely no charge. So you can go back and watch part one, but not right now. Right now, you need to stay here and catch part two. Okay. All right. So I'm going to give my sister queens who are joining me for today's conversation an opportunity to introduce themselves. And then we're going to jump right into today's discussion. So let's start with Pam. Pam, shout out the people. You're not a stranger to the platform anymore. So, I think everybody must know you by now.
Yes. I feel like I can be your co-host right about now. I've been here. This is my third time. Thank you again for the invite. Hello, everyone on social media. Thank you so much for joining us as we talk about this important topic about caregiver burnout. It was really intense the last time, and I believe it'll be so again. But hopefully, we'll be able to share some information that will, be of benefit to those of you who are in this position. Thanks again for the invite.
Okay, you're welcome. And over to Agatha. Greet the people.
Hey, hello, everyone. I bring you greetings from beautiful Dangriga, Belize. That is where I am currently. I am blessed to live here. I've been here for the past couple of years. I am just enjoying life, really. But thank you for being here. I am actually Pam's sister. Together, we are, along with some other individuals, professionals, are a part of a team of individuals that are really interested in bringing awareness to mental health and wellness. So that is, we call ourselves Mental Health Advocates Dangriga. And so I'm not a stranger to this platform either. I was not able to be on the previous conversation. Actually, I really felt like I really didn't have much to offer to the conversation, but I listened and it was such a powerful conversation that needed to be had. And we're going to continue that as well in this session as well. So I'm looking forward to the discussion. I hope I can bring something to the conversation that will be of benefit. I am so very interested in seeing others just come up a little bit higher in their mental health and wellness. It's so much that's going on in, around us in our lives, things that we obviously have to, take care of and handle. And so in the process of doing all of that, I am just so interested in seeing my fellow human beings, brothers and sisters, just really take care of their mental wellness in the midst of all that the responsibilities that we have. We still need to not neglect that. So I'm happy to be here, happy to be a part of the conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Saran, also not a stranger to the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform. Go ahead and greet the folks.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're watching. Thank you. My name is Saran King. I am a medical doctor, a mom, a daughter to a mom who has dementia. And I'm also the founder of a Happy Healthy You, Body, Mind, Soul, which is geared at helping women, especially moms, get their health in check, both physical, mental, and of course, spiritual. So I also advocate a lot for mental health, but my focus is really on women, persons in general, improving their overall health, physical, mental, and spiritual. And I'm happy to be here again. I didn't walk with any tissue, so I hope I don't cry this time. But I'm happy to be here to be a part of the conversation.
I brought tissue for you. I have. You're welcome. All right. Okay. So, greetings to the ladies who are in the chat section sending us their greetings. Good afternoon and thank you for being here. Greetings to the queens, Monique, and also to Sandra. I'm sending big hugs to Sandra Abbott Wilshire right now, and she knows why. I'm not going to put her business out, but I'm sending some extra love and extra hugs to Sandra right now. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for being here. And she's listening in Antigua and Barbuda. All right. So let's jump right into today's discussion because as Saran and Pam already said, probably might be a bit of a heavy one. It was quite heavy last week. There were some tears. We're going to see what happens today. All right. So just as a recap, we covered this last week and so we may repeat some things, but there are probably people listening and there may be people who watch this in the future, who watch the recording, who happen to come across it somewhere on the internet and did not catch part one. And so for that reason, I want us to kind of just at the start of the discussion, do just a quick recap of some of the things that we covered last week. So I wanted us to start off with a little overview of who is a caregiver. Like, can we just kind of set the parameters for the conversation and say who are the people that we are counting as caregivers for the purpose of this afternoon's discussion?
Yes. So we were saying that anyone who is in the position of caring for someone else's overall well-being, in a capacity as far as caring for a family member, or even being in a helping profession where your job is to provide services to individuals that deal with a lot of different issues or dealing with something traumatic. Those I think would be considered caregivers. We did mention, like in terms of professions, we were looking at nurses, teachers, EMTs, counselors, psychiatrists, police officers, firemen and women. We had mentioned a few others as well, but those professions where, first responders, those professions where we are in the position of having to care for someone else's needs. Those professions are prone to, may have often experienced or have dealt with some level of caregiver burnout.
Yeah. I think you pretty much covered it. I mean, you didn't give an exhaustive list, but I think people get the idea of who we are referring to when we are talking about caregivers. If you are providing physical or psychological, because we don't want to limit it to just people who provide physical care. If you are providing psychological care to someone as well, and I think Pam mentioned, social workers, therapists, counselors, pastors, anybody who is helping someone else take care of their emotional and mental health, these people are also prone to having caregiver burnout. And of course, all the people who are looking after persons who have various types of illness and injuries, persons who are caring for cancer patients. Saran mentioned that her mom has dementia, persons with chronic illness, stroke. That's one that occurs to me. I have a friend right now who is caring for a parent who is recovering from a stroke. And this has been taking a real toll on her because the person has had multiple strokes back to back. Like it wasn't just one stroke. The person had a stroke and then like maybe 2 days later, another one. And then maybe a week later, another one, And so it is not just taking a physical toll because she's providing the physical care, but it's taking a mental toll because of the unpredictability of the situation, because there have been repeated strokes. So I don't know when the next one is going to happen. And I don't know how bad the next one will be. And I don't know if the person will survive the next one. And so it's, it's that. It's not knowing what's going to happen next. And so it really, it hits hard. So while this is not a comprehensive list, I think our listeners have a general idea.
May I please add something
yes.
to that list, or a people group to that list? And that is pretty much what I would also say is caregiving and who that all encompasses. But I do want to put in a plug for even, for instance, like the grandparents that are now taking care of maybe their grandchildren for whatever reason. Maybe the parents, something happened to the parents, and it's quite a few of those situations. And I could see where that could, especially an elderly grandparent that is now having the responsibility of taking care of their grandchildren, that can also contribute to caregivers burnout. We don't really maybe think a whole lot about that group of people, but that is definitely a group that needs to also be considered and also be supported. And you talked about like the family members that are taking care of a family that is dealing with stroke, but then also along those lines are like spouses that are now, they say in sickness and in health, right? And so we're looking at, especially as we're getting older now, a spouse is now having the responsibility of taking care of a spouse that is that has fallen ill. And some really do an awesome, excellent job of taking care of their spouses. And so I just wanted to add that to the list. I'm sure it was said somewhere, somehow in there, but I just wanted to specifically give kudos and shout out to those specific group of people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And something else just occurred to me that came up last week that we didn't mention. Parents, especially single parents. I remember not last week, but 2 weeks ago when we did part 1, I remember MJ was on. I don't know if Saran remembers this. MJ was on and MJ was talking about her experience. She was in the chat section. She was, watching us from home. but she was sharing a lot of her experience in the chat as a single mother of two children and how caregiver burnout has taken a toll on her many times over the years, in particular because she has a child who has a learning disability and who requires extra attention, and additional resources. And so parents too. I wanna include parents in the group of people who could find themselves experiencing caregiver burnout. So the net is a big one. It covers a lot of people, right? Okay, so with that being said, what exactly is caregiver burnout? How does one know if they have it? Anybody want to jump in on that? This is something we also touched on last week, but we're just doing a little quick recap.
With the caregiver burnout, there are a lot of different symptoms that come along with it. And the symptoms are physical, they're emotional, there's some, mental things that are going on. I kind of compare it to a depression because a lot of the symptoms are the same. Sometimes the feelings of helplessness or hopelessness, anger, irritability, anxiety, feelings of isolation. I think anxiety, though, is a big one. And the ladies had mentioned last week, the anxiety that comes from not knowing what's going to happen or not being able to go anywhere because you're afraid of what might happen in your absence. And so there's a sense of, loss of control over the situation. There's some physical, there's some numbness, some physical things that come along with it. You might find yourself experiencing headaches or, other pains in your body, sleeplessness. That's a huge one. Just not being able to sleep, lack of concentration, inability to focus. There are a lot of those symptoms that go along with caregiver burnout. But I think I explained it as not having the emotional resources to handle, or not have the capacity to be able to handle the caregiving part, the tasks that comes with it, the feelings that come along with it, and just the resources you have emotionally are just not sufficient to be able to address all the needs that are in that caregiving role.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Saran an opportunity to speak on that because I know Saran can speak from her personal experience on this one and share some of the things that one could look for. But we have a very interesting question in the chat section that I want to pull up so that we can address it. I absolutely cannot overlook this. This is a question from Jill. And Jill is asking, should parents be considered caregivers? That's what you sign up for automatically when you bring a child into the world. Any thoughts on this? Everyone is smiling. Don't all jump in at the same time.
Because Jill is our sister.
Well, we'll let Saran take that one.
Go ahead, Saran.
Well, absolutely, parents are caregivers. It's not a matter of if they should be considered. Once you are providing some level of care, as we mentioned, you are automatically a caregiver. And I don't know if you remember, but the last time Alison had mentioned also that sometimes people become caregivers unintentionally. Somebody may fall ill, somebody dies, somebody moves. Even children can become caregivers without even knowing what a caregiver is. So parents are caregivers. Not everybody who brings a child into a world actually takes care of that child and becomes a caregiver. So if you bring a child into this world and then you take on the responsibility of caring for that child, then you are a caregiver. But if you bring a child into this world and then you are not able to, for whatever reason, then you're not a caregiver to that child. You could be a caregiver for somebody else, but you're a caregiver nevertheless.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to add to that, obviously, and that is that your position as a caregiver is not determined by choice. Your position as a caregiver is not determined by whether or not you opted in to the position. Your position as a caregiver is defined by whether or not you are engaged in the act of caregiving. Period. So if you're engaged in the act of caregiving, whether by will or by force, you are a caregiver.
Yeah.
So parents are caregivers, whether they chose to become parents or they became parents by accident, accident, quote unquote. You are a caregiver.
Right.
You know. So your role in the position of caregiver is not linked to whether or not you landed in it by choice or not. It's defined by you engaging in the act of caregiving. Period. So if you're doing it, you're a caregiver, whether you're a parent or any other type of caregiver.
In addition to
Anybody
that,
else want to speak on that?
yeah, and I wanted to add that so it's not a value judgment if you say you're a caregiver. It just is a fact if you are in the position of caring for someone else's everything. And in addition to that, though, it doesn't mean that you have to experience caregiver burnout because you're a caregiver. Not everyone who is a caregiver experiences that, but it does occur to a majority of the people. And one of the things I did not mention as far as the symptoms was the exhaustion, just the mental and physical exhaustion and fatigue that comes with caregiver, with caregiver burnout.
Right.
But I think that was a good question. I think that was a good question.
I also want to add that not every care is good care. Somebody can be providing care,
Right.
but they're not doing a good job. There might be neglect, whether it's physically, whether it's emotionally. So you might be giving care and it's wishy-washy, for lack of a better word.
At best.
At best. And so you may be a caregiver, but you're not giving good care.
Right. And you guys have actually already said all of, in response to this question, what I would have wanted to say. But I do want to also add that even though it is a responsibility that because it comes with the job, with the title, let's say, the function, even though it is the responsibilities come with that title as far as parenting, spouse, etc. The fact that you are expending energy, you are responsible in a sense for a whole other human being, whether that is physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, it just automatically gives us the title. In addition to parent or spouse or grandparent or whatever our professional title may be, it just gives us that responsibility of caring for someone else. And whenever we do that and we are not taking care of ourselves in the process, and parents do that a lot, especially, maybe single parents, but parents just in general, we almost always wear it as even a badge of honor to say that I'm doing everything for my children and not doing anything for myself. And we kind of take that as look at me, I'm superwoman, and not really allowing ourselves to take the care of ourselves that we need to in order to be able to give the best of ourselves to those that we are caring for. So in that regard, even though it comes with the title, it still doesn't mean that it does not take a lot of our energy in order to be able to do that well. Like Saran said, some people are parents and Lord knows, it's just a title. It's not really, they're not really very committed to the responsibility of caring for someone else. A lot of that has a lot to do with other issues, but some of it has to do with our own personal issues and being selfish in some regards. So,
Yeah. I wanted to add another layer to that. I agree with everything that you have said. But I feel like this the question that Jill asked really it goes to a deeper issue. And that is um, a, a situation, a school of thought, if you will, in which we do not understand or accept that two things can be true at the same time. I feel like there is a school of thought out there that suggests that if you have chosen to give birth to a child or father a child and become a parent, it automatically cancels any opportunity that you have to express distress around the role that you are playing as a parent. Like it precludes you from being able to say, I am not doing okay in this role, even though I chose it. So you get smacked for complaining about being exhausted as a parent, or you get smacked for complaining about not being able to properly navigate the relationship with your child who is not acting right. Like you are not supposed to ever experience distress because you chose it, And so I feel like the question that Jill asked goes to that issue. Do I even get to classify myself as a caregiver? Like, how dare me want to put myself into a category of persons that might actually receive compassion and sympathy? Because do I even deserve the compassion and sympathy because I chose this? Because both things apparently cannot be true. Like I cannot make a choice to become a parent and really love my children and do my best for them while at the same time being in distress when things are exhausting and difficult. And the same would apply to a parent or a spouse, anybody that you're looking after. I love the person that I'm caring for. I would do anything for them. I would move mountains for them. But also, in the other hand, I am exhausted and sometimes wish that somebody would take the role and somebody else would do it. Does this cancel my love for the person? No, it doesn't. It also doesn't cancel my love for my children. And it also does not make me a bad parent or a bad person. And so I just wanted to address that because this is the deeper issue that I see coming out of that question. So Jill, I am giving you permission. I am giving you permission to lump yourself in the category of people who are caregivers and who deserve compassion and grace and understanding, and who are, it's okay for you to get burnt out and say, listen, these kids are driving me nuts. It doesn't make you a bad parent or a bad person. It just makes you human, and it's okay. It's absolutely okay. So I'm releasing you from this erroneous school of thought, that you're not entitled to any of the things that we are discussing here today. You absolutely are, whether you chose parenthood or parenthood chose you. So there's that.
And that applies to adult children as well, because sometimes we're still in the position of helping our adult children and helping in their care. So it applies to that as well. And even though we may do it because we love our children, because we love them, it does not mean that it does not get exhausting at times. And it's okay to say that. It doesn't take away from the love. It doesn't take away from the desire to care for those individuals. So very good.
because
Yeah.
I think that reflects self-awareness. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of not being a good parent. It's just being self-aware that yes, I love being a parent. I love my children, but there are some challenges in being a parent, and especially parenting children in this day and age with everything that's going on. There are some challenges. It's just a matter of, acknowledging that and just being self-aware enough to know that parenthood is hard. It's not for the faint of heart if you're going to do it right. So I think it's just, we chose it, but it has its challenges.
Yeah, I was going to add that it's okay to also voice that you don't like every aspect of parenting, because I have a friend who just had a baby, and today was actually the blessing for the baby. And it's like, oh yeah, hold the baby, take some pictures. I was like, yeah, I don't like this stage. I don't like holding babies. I say, call me in 2 years when they're potty trained. You can leave the child by me overnight. But I just don't like the baby stage. And people look at me funny, but you're not a mother. I was like, yeah, I didn't like doing it for my own children either. And it's okay. I like them when they're more interactive. And I have friends also who love the baby stage. And so, it's okay. It's okay. We don't have to like all aspects of parenting because it's challenging. And Pamela, said something that I say to all of my friends before they have babies and they're dying to have children. I was like, it's not for the faint of heart. You have to be in it for the long haul. If you're not ready to make sacrifices, if you're not ready for all the challenges, because it's like 90%, okay, 80% challenges and 20%, glitz and glamour. But people on, Instagram and social media give you this false expectation and false look of what parenting is like. I say it's not all about taking nice pictures and putting it on the gram. It's about you have to keep this child alive and raise them to be good human beings. That's a big job. So
That part.
yeah, and you need to, like the pastor was talking today about, if you're going to battle, you have to armor yourself, and parenting is like that. Like you gotta armor yourself, and you have to have your army to help you on this battlefield because it's hard work.
Yeah. And see, Jill, I'm coming back for you again because I'm not letting
She's a
Jill
tough
off.
cookie, let me tell you. When she gets a thought in her mind and that's what she thinks, that's it. We know her. We know her well.
I'm not letting you off the hook, Jill. So Jill says, I never thought of it that way. I would never have defined myself as a caregiver to my 2 children. I am just mother. To anyone else, yes, I agree. So you see that Jill says she's ready for all the smoke. Listen. I love it. So Jill, I'm going to pull up that previous comment, the one in which you put the word just in front of mother.
She better put some respect on that mother and take out the
Put
just.
some respect on yourself, sis. Yeah, put some respect on your own name, because there is no such thing as just mother. What does that even mean? Just is a reductionist word. You put just in front of something in order to reduce its significance. The word just in the English language is meant to be reductive. If I say it's just this or just that, I am attempting to reduce the importance, the value, or the significance of whatever follows the word just. So to put just in front of the word mother I am clutching my pearls because what? Did you hear what Saran just said about parenthood? And this doesn't just apply to mothers, it applies to all parents, it applies to fathers as well. It applies to anybody who's caring for a child that you may not have parented. You know, you are a mother. You're not just anything. You're a mother, period. And that is literally the role. It is literally the role that is the axis on which our world revolves. Literally, you are the primary caregiver of humanity. The fathers are not the primary caregivers, you know. Fathers go out and work and bring home the bacon. The mothers are the primary caregivers. Even when they are also going out to bring home the bacon, they're still the primary caregivers. You are literally nurturing humanity. You cannot put just in front of mother. That's a desecration of the word and the role and the person. Right? So, you, my dear, you are a caregiver, but you are not just any caregiver. You are the pivotal caregiver of humanity. Do not reduce your own value. And I know exactly where this mindset comes from. I know where this is patriarchy. This is oppression. This is white supremacy. This is slavery. All of the things. Because this is where the ideas come from that we are less valuable, even though we work the hardest. This is where the ideas come from that we are not allowed to advocate for ourselves and say if we're sick or if we have a headache or if we're tired. That's where these mindsets come from. No autonomy, no agency. You're not even like a whole human. That's where that mindset comes from. So how dare you be tired? It's slavery. This is what you were born to do. You don't get to be tired. No. This is 2024, sis. Slavery was abolished. Okay? So we're going to, as Bob Marley say, emancipate ourselves from mental slavery.
Can I add something? Because I kind of understand Jill's mind. The role of mother for Jill is, and a lot of mothers, is that role is, you said a whole lot in your summary a few minutes ago, but for Jill and people like Jill, because she does take her responsibility of motherhood very seriously. Sometimes I think Jill acts like she's the only person that have children in this world. So she takes it very seriously, and she cannot grasp that, and we'll probably after this conversation, but that you can actually be a caregiver to someone who may not necessarily have, something physically, mentally, emotionally wrong with them. You're just taking care of your children, which in and of itself speaks to the role of caregiving. But I think Jill separates motherhood, parenting, and taking care of your children that are perfectly fine. We're just doing what we need to do for them because that's what we're supposed to do for them. We brought them into this world. But you said it very well. Two things can be true at the same time. You can be a parent caring for your children. And it's not to take anything away from any of us, from you as a parent or anyone else as a parent. It really is to, as a matter of fact, it's to give us the support, the accolades, the not that we're asking for it, but we deserve that that grace, that I don't know the word quite to say about it, but it is a role that is very paramount to the existence of humanity. And so any name that we can add to it and what we do, any title, any responsibilities that we can add to it, caregiving being one of them, really is just enhancing who we are as, parents and so forth. So it's not to take away from the role of parenthood or motherhood, for that matter, fatherhood as well, but it's to say that that is who we are in terms of what we provide and what we bring to the relationship. So there doesn't have to, I don't know if that's the correct word either, have to be anything really mentally, emotionally, physically, intellectually, or any other way wrong with that person in order to provide care for them. So hopefully that, that kind of brings clarity to the question and the thrust behind that question.
Yes. Yeah. I'm going to Belize to look for Jill sometime soon, so we can
She's in
talk
Las
more about
Vegas,
this.
actually.
Oh, she's closer to me. All right, I'm coming to visit you, Jill. So I wanted to highlight this comment from Sandra. Sandra, who I'm sure everybody has already picked up, as she mentioned that she's currently undergoing chemo, is talking about how amazing the doctors and nurses are, and that she's taken aback at how they are always so upbeat, how they're always so much fun to be around, and that she asked if they're specially trained to work with persons who are undergoing that type of treatment, and thanking them for taking care of the patient so well. And it makes me think of how caregivers in some roles, particularly roles like these, where you're caring for persons who are ill, how you have no choice but to put on that face when you're going out to interface with the people that you care for, when there are 100 things going on in the background of your life that nobody knows about. This might be one of the hardest parts of caregiving, whatever kind of caregiving you are engaged in. I know for me personally, as a therapist, that is the hardest part of caregiving. I think if I had to rank the various challenges that come with caregiving, that would have to be number one. It's me showing up here and smiling, full of energy and full of life, with my eyes glittering and my voice sounding energetic and loud, when in the background, my life is burning to ashes in the background. All kinds of things going wrong in my life. If it's not one thing, it's another. It's a parent who is sick. It might be relationship issues. It might be I am having physical health issues. It might be financial struggles. I could keep going. And I have 8 clients on my schedule today, and I show up like this for all of them. So when I log in for my sessions, they're like, the same thing Sandra is saying there. They're like, girl, why are you always on 10? Like, don't you ever have a bad day? And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, if only you knew. If only you knew. But this session isn't about me. It's about you. So let's talk about you. I will worry about me. You know what I mean? That part of caregiving, child. Listen, it's rough out here. I mean, so
I agree.
Wow. No more to say on that.
And I totally. So having done this like for 30 years, I completely agree. It almost feels like because you chose to be in this field, that you have a realization that you are always on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can't.
You dropped out for a little bit, but
you cannot. Oh, okay. I was saying you go into, your work knowing that you're on all the time. You really are not allowed really to have an off day. And so you go in with, like for me, I pray for myself. I pray for my clients. I pray for a right mindset when I go, when I have to deal with someone. And I just go in having done self-care consistently, because you need to be able to do that to do the work that we do, so two things can be true at the same time. You can love your work and be a professional and still have a difficult day and still be dealing with your own personal stuff. But we almost, in a sense, make an oath to kind of put our stuff to the side, deal with that later. That's what your friends are for. That's what your therapist is for. That's where, your tears are for, all of that stuff. You have to, channel your professionalism and deal with your other stuff after you've taken care of the people that you have to take care of, that you have committed to taking care of, that you have, agreed that they are the priority for the moment. So it's not easy. And that's where, some of the compassion fatigue comes from, because it is hard to hear everything that clients come in with on a consistent basis and not just feel emotionally exhausted from hearing all of that and trying to help them navigate through all of those issues. And so, sometimes you get a little numb. You just get to the point sometimes where you just can't feel anymore. But at that point, you want to figure out something. So you need to refresh, reset, restore something, because those clients, the next day they come to see you, they need you to be on. And so, that's where the self-work comes in and the self-awareness, because when you get to the point where you don't care at all about anything the clients are telling you, that's a scary place to be, I think.
Yeah. It's time to find you a new job, a new profession.
You need a vacation or something. And
right. Yeah, exactly.
Natalie is saying the very same thing. You're always on. And she's talking about how this is disruptive to sleep and it stresses your body and it takes a toll.
Right. I wanted to also add to what the young lady said initially about, or asking, it's probably a rhetorical question, but it still bears an answer. And there is, you have to be intentional about being on, being professional, being available. It's a choice, it's a decision that we make. Again, part of that is because we're doing hopefully our own work in and of ourselves to, and we probably more than likely as caregivers or counselors have gone through some work on ourselves where we required some kind of compassion, and not necessarily, nurses or doctors, but I think to a certain extent, for sure, counselors. A lot of us get into the profession of counseling and counseling really because maybe we've dealt with some of the issues that others who come to us are also dealing with. So we really do have a compassion and a passion for what we do, because we want to see people get better. So a lot of times for ourselves, we take on the responsibility of ensuring that when we meet with our clients, that they know that there is hope. We extend that in our attitude towards them. We show them that, even though we may be feeling a certain way, but like you said, in the background of our lives, we may be feeling and going through certain things. But when we come to them, we give them that hope just by our own attitude towards, the session, towards that person. In addition to that, it brings up an interesting point of, of course, like professionally speaking, we get the trainings, we get the whatever we do, trainings, workshops, whatever we go to, our education, in order to be able to be that compassionate, kind, always upbeat individual, and we do that. But what about the caregiver that is not a professional? They've just been thrust in this role. And I'm thinking for them, uh, I wonder, I mean, I know we're going to talk about what are some things that we can do or the caregiver can do in order to not get burnt out or be able to continue to do what they're doing at a high level. What about them? You know, I'm just thinking about like support groups, and what are some other things that maybe they can probably do in order to be on when they need to be, right? So I was just thinking about that as an offshoot of, you know, being a caregiver that may not have the experience or the wherewithal to be able to provide professional care.
Yeah. I feel like I want to kick that one over to Saran. Um,
I was going to add something
go ahead.
about compassion fatigue, and sometimes we need to take a step back in terms of what we are doing. So we're in the field. I'm in the healthcare profession, and I think it's very easy for you to have compassion fatigue. I actually never knew the term when I was in medical school or even when I started my career, but I noticed after a while that I was like, okay, yeah, you have a problem, but I have problems too. Kind of, I got that kind of feeling, and I was like, oh, I didn't like it. It was icky to me because I never wanted to be that doctor who didn't care, because you know that's like, oh, those doctors, they don't care, you know. And it's because of a lot of them are burnt out. I had gotten burnt out as well, and I left the environment that I was in. I went in a different environment, part-time, and then I stepped up to full-time, and I think I was getting it again, and I stepped back down to part-time because I don't want to get there. And many of the older colleagues would tell you, "Oh, you have to disconnect," but yes, you disconnect for that moment, but it's impossible for you to disconnect all the time without getting compassion fatigue and without being like cold and heartless. And I don't want to be like that. So sometimes we have to take a step back to step forward so that we can show up for our clients in our best light. You know, if you are burning in the background, you need to step back because you're not going to be able to fully show up for your client the way that you ought to. So sometimes you have to recharge, regroup, you know, take a different approach. Maybe you need to pause and take a time out from what you're doing if it's possible, because you know, if you're a single mother, you're the sole provider, it may not be possible. And this is where support comes in, and that's one of the things that I always talk about is having support. One of the things people would say to me, how do you do it all? I was like, I don't. I don't do it all. I literally don't. Like, I don't do this, I don't do that. And they're like, what? And you're a mother? I was like, yeah, I don't have to do everything. I don't want to be a superwoman. I don't want to have on no cape. I don't want to change any tire. I don't want to wash clothes. I don't want to do it. And I don't do it because I have the option of getting somebody else to do it, because I can't be in the field and still at home and in the field at work and in the field in my social life and in the field with my associations. I will burn to the ground if I'm going to try to do every single thing in every single capacity that I am in. So if you can delegate, if you can eliminate, if you can put things on pause, because I always think of all the things in our life on a plate, and it doesn't matter how much we shuffle it around, the load is going to still be the same. So sometimes we got to take things off of our plate, hand it over to somebody else, and delegate for a while, automate things, get support. And I just want to say quickly, when I was having my first son, I wanted to be that superwoman, and I was going to do everything myself, I my account went from this to this in such a short time. When I got pregnant with my second son, I was like, everybody on my contact list knew. Even if you're buying one pair of socks, please, can you help me? Can you help me? need help. I need all the help I can get, and I'm taking all the help. I'm not refusing help. Whatever you're giving, I'm
Right.
taking it. And it was a different experience because I was not trying to be that superwoman by baby number two. I'm like, nope, not doing it. So, same friend who who had a baby recently, shortly after she had the baby, she's like, oh, she's ready for the second one. And it's like, hold on, the baby's still young, still fresh. You know, the energy, the adrenaline, the excitement of having a baby is still there. When that wanes, you'll be like, no way, I'm not going back there again. I said, you just give it a few months. Give it a few months. And now within the past few weeks, she's like, girl, I'm so tired. I was like, the baby's not even one yet. It's baby's still young. Give it some time. Ask for help. It's okay. You don't have to be that superwoman.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna I'm gonna jump in. That was so good. That was so good. I'm gonna jump in because I want us to pivot just a little bit, not too much. I'm gonna pull up a comment from Nads. Nads is saying one of the main reasons that females are more at risk for caregiver burnout is because of the many hats that we wear as females. And you know that was one of the things that we decided we would tackle in today's conversation. We need to address the gender gap in caregiving because far more caregivers are female than male. This is well known. It's established, it's documented. Can we first answer the question of why? Why is it? I mean, we know the answer, but let's pretend we don't and just go ahead and unpack it and put it out there.
Right.
Why is it that most of our caregivers are female?
So let me, because I have my answers here for that one. I thought about that specifically. And good segue, Nats. Thank you so much. She's one of our mental health advocates team member. So welcome, Nads. So I think for many years and years, probably from maybe even the beginning of time, is again, it comes back to gender roles. And women are just taught of, again, we're the nurturers, we're the caregivers, we're the ones that will be there through thick and thin. And of course, you know, we say that the men are out in the field, they're in the fields and working, and they're, you know, killing the cows and bringing them home and going fishing and bringing the fish home. And so they're doing the outside things. So really, when we even think about it, and now, of course, that has changed because now some women are going out and killing their own cows. So when we think about it now,
That part.
that doesn't fly anymore. But the mind shift has not changed. That women are the ones that, and culturally as well, too, women are the ones that are going to leave their job. When we even think about women having children, more than likely, obviously, you're the one leaving, having the baby. So at least for 6 weeks, you're going to take care of the child. And then after that, you know, when the discussion comes up, who's going to take care of the child, it always ends up that the mom is going to do it, right? And so it just, I think it's cultural. It's also the patriarchal society that we live in, where women are even though this is an honorable thing to do, is to take care of another person. It's honorable. We're not going to take anything away from that, but it's almost seen as, you know, you do it because I'm doing other things when it comes to the society that we live in. I'm doing more important things. So you, as the female, you do that. And so I think a lot of it does have to do with the culture that we live in, as well as that it's just a gender role that has been kind of permeated throughout generations and in society as a whole.
And I also think that I'm not sure, you know, so much anymore, but I know when I was growing up, you know, the expectations were that I would go into certain fields of work. So, as a woman, I probably was geared more towards nursing than I was being a doctor. Or I was geared towards some things, that they consider, female roles or female occupation. But I think just in general, also, there is just that societal understanding, I guess, that we are going to be the caregivers. And I think I mentioned this last time, but if a son has to take care of his mom and he is in a relationship or he is married, the expectation is from him and from society that he's going to, have his wife do more of the caregiving, and he would, I don't know, take care of the financial part or whatever. But the expectation is, that as women, we are the ones that are supposed to be in that caretaker role, that caregiver role. And, when men have to be, they find a way it'll get done. They just won't be the one doing it. They'll find a way to their mom will be taken care of, but they're not going to be the hands-on. They're going to hire a nurse. They're going to get their girlfriend or wife to do it. But society has just placed it on our plate to be the caregiver. And this might be a total aside, but even in marriages, the man's expectation is to provide. Now, the women also provide, they won't mention that part, that we're also out there working. But in the home, we're supposed to be the teacher. We're supposed to be the cook. We're supposed to be the housekeeper. We're supposed to be the chauffeur. You don't see men. That's why, to answer your question, that's why we have caregiver burnout, because we are caregivers that are expected to do it all as women. And the men just have to go to work and come home. And if there are any men on here, I hope you're not offended, but facts are facts. And so I don't know what to tell you. So the expectation.
You forgot that you also have to become an exotic dancer at the end of the day.
Yes, and you have to be flexible enough to hang off chandeliers.
Yes, you have to be an exotic pole dancer at the end of the day after you finish doing all those other things. Right?
Who will not get burnt out after all of that? So
listen.
I just want to add something to that. That my aunt told me that when she got married, and this is over 30 years ago, and she was complaining to the pastor that, her husband expected her to do this and her husband expected her to do that. And the pastor said, because you are doing it. So you're going to be expected to do it. You give them the what's the word I'm looking for? You already act a certain way and you already do certain things. So it's already expected of you. And so in order for us to not burn ourselves to the ground, we have to also ask the men, because I don't know about the other ladies, but I find with men, it's not assumed that they would know what you want or how you're feeling. Oh, but he's supposed to know. He's supposed to know. We've been together for 20 years. He's supposed to know how I feel. No, he doesn't know. He's daft. He's totally unaware. Let me say unaware. Not as observant as the woman. Let me retract the statement because I don't want to offend any men in the comment section. But they are not as attuned and intuitive as women. And so, because I used to do it, I would just grumble in the background and the gentleman had no idea. And he's like, yeah, why didn't you just ask me? I was like, I thought you knew. He's like, how would I know? I was like, I keep a bottle of water empty here and I want you to fill it. Yeah, but just ask me. But it's empty. You can see it. You still have to, you still have to tell them, can you fill my bottle of water, please? Because it's empty. Sure, no problem. And not leave it there and say, but he doesn't see that it's empty. He should just fill it. And I think with men, from my experience with having friends, colleagues, friends with husbands and boyfriends, that our expectations are too high. So we have to just lay down the ground rules. So going into the relationship that I am in now, I let the gentleman know I'm not the domesticated type. I'm not into the cooking and the cleaning. And he's like, okay, uh, fine. So he does most of the
Let's get a
cooking.
maid.
No, he does most of the cooking. He does the cleaning. I do not wash. I do not even know how to use that washing machine. And I'm going
Well,
to say it without
thank
being shame, feeling guilty. I don't wash. I'm not changing any tire, as I said. I fold clothes, I iron clothes, but he's doing the cooking, the cleaning, and he's okay with doing that because I do other things. So it's shared responsibility. So we're not both burnt out. He's doing some of the work, I'm doing some of the work, and then anything that we cannot do, we outsource or we ask somebody. So everybody gets a break. So if you are feeling that you need more help, just ask for it. Sometimes we are mumbling in the background and people don't know that we need help. You just need to tell them, hey, I need somebody to come and clean my house because I'm not the cleaning type. That's what my brother does. His wife is busy, he is busy. And so every now and then they get somebody to come and clean the house, and that's okay. And people might look at them and say, oh, but why did so you don't wash? I was like, no, I don't wash. No, with a straight face. No, not washing.
And in the context of caregiving, Dr. Saran, in the context of caregiving, and this is who we expect to take care of our parents, our grandparents, these ones that you have to tell them to put a bottle of water up. I'm just
Well,
asking.
you see, we have to meet them where they are. So if you know that your spouse, your partner, they're not going to be the type to physically do it, as I think Pamela or maybe Therese said, they will outsource it. It will get
No,
done. You
I
understand?
agree.
And I think
I
that's still
agree.
okay. They know their capabilities and they know that, okay, they either won't have the time, the resources, or the know how to complete this task. I will get somebody who knows how to do it and make sure it's done properly to their standard. And that's still okay. I think that's all right.
It is. It absolutely is. And when it with caregiving, because there are some men to be, like when our dad was ill, and he has only daughters, and so it was not going to fly very well for us to be in terms of the physical care of my dad to actually do that part. And so we did bring in some, male caregivers, and then one of my nieces, her husband was like just really, as a matter of fact, I think that was his profession, so he actually was very good at caring for my dad as well. So in terms of, and the question that is asked, it is generally, and probably I would even venture to say 90, 95, maybe even 99% of the time, the caregiving does fall on the females, on the women, even though we are doing all the other things that the men are doing. And so it does. But I was teasing you, Dr. Saran. I know I'm with you with that one. You got to tell them, you got to meet them where they are. My husband is the cook. I do not cook. I love to eat, but I do not cook. So the things that we do. The things that we don't need to do or don't like to do, we don't have to do, right? So it works. It helps. It helps to make for a happy wife. They say, happy wife, happy life.
I think though with women, the expectation of us being the caregivers, I think a lot of it too has to do with the guilt we probably would feel if we were to say no, I can't do it, and have someone else do it, because society will look at you like you are especially in cases where your parents need help. You're the daughter. Your mom or your dad had so many girls. How dare you want to outsource the caring of your parent to someone? They won't ask that question to a man or to the son, but they would ask that question to us, and then there'd be some guilt that would probably come along with it when we say, just for my own peace of mind, my own self-care, I want to pay someone to take care of my mom. Because like you said, we need to be self-aware of what we are able to do, but we just keep piling and piling stuff on top of our plate and not, removing some things, and she'll still be taken care of, but society has told us that we need to be, as women and daughters, the ones to do it. So I think that's where some of the burnout comes in, because the guilt that we feel about not doing it is, enough to have us just keep going and going and going and never stopping.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to jump in and say two things. I don't want anybody to come for me in the chat section. All right. I'm not like Jill. I do not want the smoke. Okay. So the first thing I'm gonna say is that women are naturally, organically nurturers. We are, of the species, of the human species, we are the nurturers. We are the softer sex, as they say. We very naturally do a better job at caretaking and caregiving. It just is what it is. Let's just call a spade a spade. This is not to say that there are not exceptions to the rule. There are always exceptions to the rule. There are men who are excellent caregivers too. But let's be frank, they are the exception, not the rule. Right? Don't come for me. Don't come for me. I'm simply stating the facts. The men who are excellent caregivers are not the rule. They are the exception. By nature, we, the women, we are just equipped emotionally and psychologically, also mentally, I am going to say, to be the caregivers of humanity. We have the stamina, the emotional and the psychological stamina to withstand what it requires, the toll that it takes. There is a reason why we are the ones who are required to go through the labor pains and push out the babies. The men wouldn't be able to manage it. Humanity would stop, because they would stop having children. There would be no more procreation. Okay? It's not accidental. It's because we have the stamina. Because those labor pains are not just a physical test. They are a mental test, They are literally a mental test that you endure. You have to tell yourself, this is going to be worth it in the end. I can do this. This will not kill me. Right? Now, so that's the first thing. And I believe that is probably the primary reason why most of the world's caregivers are women. Let's just say, call it what it is. The second thing that I am going to mention is to piggyback on something that Saran said when she mentioned this situation where the woman went to the pastor to complain about her husband, the expectations that her husband is placing on her, and that she was told that the expectations are there because of how you have been showing up in the relationship. He has set his expectations based on how you have been showing up. And a lot of women do this, and they are not even aware that they are doing it. Why are they unaware? Because they are subconsciously in a process of trying to prove their womanhood to this man. Not just to this man, to society in general. I, on my own, as a woman, am not enough. These are subliminal messages that we receive from childhood, which is why, in order to prove our womanhood, enhance our womanhood, subsidize our womanhood, we need to be able to cook, to clean, to wash, to iron. You also have to make sure you look good. You need a natural BBL. Your belly must stay flat even after you have 5 children. Your hair must always be well put together. Your skin's supposed to be flawless. And also make sure you perform well in the bedroom. Otherwise, your womanhood has not been proven. Where does this messaging come from? Why is it that grandmothers, when a woman comes and says, "Mommy or Mama, I'm getting married," she does not ask you, "Are you emotionally equipped to navigate the challenges of marriage, my dear?" No, she's not going to ask you that. She's going to ask you, "You can cook fungi?" That's what they would ask in Antigua. I don't know what they would ask in Belize. But in Antigua, if you can't cook fungi, you can't get married. Because fungi is the hardest thing to cook. That is the proof of your womanhood. Can you imagine? That is wild. So your emotional, psychological readiness, your maturity, your ability to regulate your emotions, your whether or not you have healed from your traumas and all the other things that you need in order to survive marriage, that doesn't matter as long as you can cook fungi. And this is the messaging that we're giving to our little girls. So what happens now? They become women who understand that within male-female relationships, I have to prove my womanhood. And that is what makes you go in there and start doing all the work and not asking the man for any help, because you're proving yourself. So he can sit there and do nothing whole day because I am the woman. Listen, this I'm going to say again, this is 2024. It's time for us to stop this. This is mental slavery. It's time for us to break out of these prisons that we have been living in. So any man who wants to be with me understands he has to understand the life that I live. I mean, y'all know the kind of life I live. You know I don't stop. You know I don't stop. I am doing 100 things. I have 100 irons in the fire. Purpose trumps everything in my life. And so if you're hungry and you can't boil water, as Antiguans would say, crap or smoke your pipe, you better learn to cook. What is this? What is this thing? This is, that I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop. I'm turning off my mic. I'm turning off my mic.
You just went down that rabbit hole there.
All the way down.
All the way down. But it's so true. If we want to change the mindset, the trajectory, it starts with individuals changing the way we engage, the way we deal with life, the way we deal with even just society, the societal norms. If we want to get to a new normal, then, and if we are the ones that's always getting the raw end of the deal or the short end of the stick, we are the ones that are always having to do more. And the more we do, the more it seems is required of us. And we are burning out. We are dying, and they're going on with their lives. And you know what they're going to do when we die? They're going to go find them a younger wife and do the same thing to her. And so if we want to change our lives, and even just when it comes to taking care of the things that we need to take care of, we have to change our mindsets. We have to change the way we think. We have to make different choices. And we have to let the other people in our lives know what what we expect and what we need, and not feel bad because we are not doing or being what society has said that we have to be. So that begins with each of us individually, just taking a stand for our own lives and for what we need, and to heck with everybody else or what they expect or what they say that we should be doing. because you're going to be the who knows it, feels it, right? Since we're talking about Bob Marley, right? Who knows it, feels it, right? So you know what you need. You know what your life requires, especially like you said, purpose driven. You have a career, you have other interests and that takes time. And not to say that other responsibilities are not important, but that we have to prioritize and we have to figure out what we're able to do, how much we're able to expend. And my grandson, excuse me, I'm sorry. So I will be quiet now because my grandson wants to be on camera. So I'm gonna go mute myself and
I just wanted to add, before somebody thinks that I don't know how to wash, I do, and I can, but I don't.
amen.
And I teach my boys, because one of the things I don't want from, because I have two boys, I don't want my boys to be those men, those kind of men that can't cook and clean. So yes, they have already started, as small as they are, not for their future wife or future partner. It's for themselves, as somebody said in the comment section. It's for
Yeah.
yourself. You have to know how to. I learned to cook when I went to university. It's
Oh
terrible.
my. Oh
I think
my.
that I think that's terrible.
Mm.
Because I was told, because I'm left-handed, that I was awkward and I need to stay out of the kitchen. Well, nobody have to tell me twice, no. But I learned I learned because I was on my own. I actually taught myself how to cook.
Wow. Amazing.
So we need to teach our little girls and boys that they're not doing it for the future person. As Therese mentioned, that we are cultured to believe that we need somebody to complete us. We are whole by ourselves, and somebody else complements us. And so we need to know how to do things for ourselves. This is basic things. We're not saying to fly a plane or to build a house. For yourself. Cook, clean, wash, whatever it is. And even if you can't do fungi, because I've heard this comment before from Antiguan men, because I'm Antiguan, or the woman need to know how to cook. And my cousin likes to say, well, the man need to know how to mix concrete. And comment. But the
That's
reality
why
is,
I highlighted Natalie's
the
comment.
reality is, every woman may not know how to cook, that well, and every man may not be an outside man cleaning the yard. The same aunt I mentioned, her husband is an inside man. He will do the cooking, the cleaning, the washing, but don't ask him to go outside and cut no yard. But he will do everything inside. Yes. So
So who cut in the yard? You know
he
what?
loves
Don't
the
answer that.
outside work. She loves the outside work. So she would take her cutlass and cut, and he will cook inside. And they work out, because we have these gender roles and gender
Interesting.
expectations. But women can be outside and men can be inside. But once there's a fair balance, I think it's okay and it really doesn't matter. One other thing I want to mention, something my grandmother, who is deceased now, used to say: when you are minding my business and I am minding my business, who is minding your business? So people need to mind their business, not in the sense that you don't care about what other people are doing, but really focus on you and your family and what's best for you, more than nosying what Pam is doing on the other side. If she changed her curtains for Easter or Christmas, or if the husband cut the yard, either way it's fine, as long as, I think the emotional part is so overlooked in the Caribbean, and we're more concerned about what they can see
Mm-hmm.
on the outside. And so
Right.
people are stuck in marriages and relationships that are so unhealthy and so toxic, because what will people say if I leave my husband? What would people say if the pastor leaves his wife? we're more concerned about what other people would think rather than what is
Leave
best.
him, sis. We don't care.
Right.
I promise you, we don't care, sis. Do what you need to do.
And people love ugly. People love the drama.
Yeah.
And I like to say, if you bring in the good on social media, bring the bad too, because I want to nosy, just like the next person.
We're invested. We're invested. We want to know how things going. I want to highlight some comments from Drayson. Drayson is one of the kings in the chat section. Only the queens have been commenting so far, but Drayson jumped in because Drayson wanted to call me out. So I want to bring up, Drayson has been in the comment section saying things. I'm going to highlight a couple of his comments. Drayson says, I can do everything for the wife, but make sure the sex is not a trade. A moment of silence. I don't have anything to say.
For him or for her?
Drayson, answer the question. Answer the question, Jason. I don't know. Let me see what else Drayson is saying. Drayson says, every parent should prepare their children to survive alone.
Yeah.
It only makes coming together as a family better. Strength plus strength equals more strength. Also, not everyone would consider relationship as an option, but he or she still needs to survive.
That's good.
That's a good one. That's very good. Oh my. Jill. Really, Jill?
I know she cannot hold still where she is right now. She got a lot to say. She can't type fast enough.
Jill. Drayson still in the chat section. My woman can work outside, but make sure the body remains soft and edible. Okay, Jason, that's the last comment I'm highlighting for you.
Somebody take
Time out for Jason.
Somebody take Mr. Brown's phone.
Get off the internet, Jason. Jason, you're off the internet. No more internet for you today. Oh my word. But on a serious note, there needs to be a paradigm shift in the way we are thinking about entering into relationships. Like, clearly, what truly matters is not the focus. We're thinking about the functional aspects of the relationship, but the parts of the relationship that truly matter are entirely overlooked.
Yeah.
Right? And this results in where the conversation began, with our women carrying the weight of the home, the community, and the society, because it is just understood that it is our job. Except that it's not, is it? It's everybody's job. It's everybody's job. Which brings me to the next question. The comment section is on fire right now. I see y'all. I'm watching y'all over there out of the corner of my eye. Don't think I'm not watching you. I'm ignoring you. The things that are going on in the comment section here. I'm not going back to the comment section right now. I'll come back to y'all later. All this misbehavior. I cannot. But I want to ask the question about the effects of caregiving on women's health and their mortality as well. I made sure to stick in the mortality part in there because it's not just impacting their health. It's literally impacting how long women live. Do you know that studies suggest that women who do not have husbands and children live much longer? This is what the research is stating, Saran can back me up on that. I mean, go online.
Women who 9 years ago.
Hmm?
Should have told me this 9 years ago.
Too late now.
30 34 for me. 37.
Too late, too late.
I forgot.
But women, research suggests that women who choose not to marry or have children actually live longer. Married women with children die sooner. This
And I
does
think
not
I know
apply to
why.
men. Married men live longer than single men.
And I think I know exactly
Check it
why.
out. Check it out. Go,
And I
go,
think
go ahead and say something. Say something about that.
I think it's because society has it set up to where, as women, we're told, to be a good wife, we need to make the home pleasurable and comfortable for the man. That we need to have everything, the house spotless, the food there, the children's, out of his way, they're, everything that they need. And so men don't get that same lecture though. It's like we're told as women, you need to have everything okay for him, so he wants to come home. And that his job basically is, to provide, and then to come home to a house that is functionally running, and who has to provide all that functional running is us. All they have to do is come, you hand them the remote control. Again, men, if you're offended, my bad. You hand them their plate of food and the remote control. You keep the kids out of their way. And, that's all they have to do is just be, eat, watch TV. And, everything else that's needed is our role to take care of. And whose mortality won't be impacted by that? If we do what society says we're supposed to be doing, the stress level, if we're doing it right, like they say we should, the stress level that we experience is so high, it will affect our mortality. It'll affect our emotional and mental, well-being. So, in relationships, I think each couple need to decide for themselves what their relationship should look like, but it needs to be mutually agreed upon. And if the woman wants to do all that, and and they're okay with being all that and doing all that, and that's how their relationship works, more power to them. But I think if we're to be honest with ourselves, just the extent of the things that women are expected to do in their marriages and relationships far exceed what's expected of men to do. And so, and we're told if we don't do all that and we're not all that, that they place a value on us as women and wives. And so I don't think men get that level of pressure at all. So yeah, it's going to affect us mentally, emotionally, physically, and our mortality.
I want to add to that. I think men have different pressures. I don't totally agree. I think men, they have different responsibilities that are placed on them, and women, to me, some women have unrealistic expectations of men as well. So I was having a conversation with some colleagues, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? And one of our colleagues, she's in her early 20s, and the rest of us, I don't want to display my age, but I'm going to be very open because I'm going to stop hiding my age. So I'm already considered a mature woman, 40 and over. I'll just say that. And the rest of us were mature women. So I said to her, I'm going to give you some wisdom from, they say I'm a mature woman, because she was saying, the 20-year-old was saying that, oh, she needs her future husband to come with a house and to come with this, and he needs to have himself sorted out. So I said to her, realistically speaking, how many 20-something-year-old men or even women will already have a house? She didn't have a house, but she's expecting her future husband to come with a house. Her future husband has to have a certain amount of savings. She said what her career is, and we don't make it. I don't want to call it a career, but we don't make that much money. And I'm like, I think you're selfish. I think you're selfish, and your expectations are unrealistic of what a man at a certain age should bring to the table. And I think it goes on both ways. Do you know that more men die from suicide than women, but more women attempt suicide than men. Because I think, unlike women who will have a girlfriend who they would rant and rave with, imagine you as a man going to one of your male friends bitching about something in your marriage. You're going to be seen as weak. My partner, for instance, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. And when he said when he was growing up, his friends would say, "Oh, we're not buying anything for you unless you're drinking an alcoholic drink." And he had to go. He said, "Well, it's fine. I'll drink water or malt." But he had to buy his own drink because he doesn't drink alcohol. And if you are not strong enough, or you don't have the support persons who are guiding you to say, it's okay if you're not drinking. It's okay. I don't drink either. I don't smoke. But I think the way I grew up, I never felt pressured enough or felt that I was left out, or I wouldn't be, well, popular enough if I wasn't drinking or drugging or partying. I never felt like I was missing out on anything, and I never felt pressured to do it. I never felt peer pressure, like how people would say. And it's because of the support that I had from home and the type of friends that I chose. When I tell people I've never held a spliff, a marijuana joint in my hand, they're like, that's so weird. I don't know anybody who never says, like, I know what it smells like. Everybody around me smokes. I've never held a joint in my hand. And people look at me like, wow, like you're like one in a billion. I'm like, none of my friends smoke, none of my friends drink. So I never had that opportunity. Most of the times, persons are pressured by their friends to drink and drug. My friends don't do that. So I was never pressured. I was never put in a situation where I would be pressured to do that because none of my friends do. But I think women, just to get to my point, women, they need to be more realistic about what men can bring to the table at a certain level. I mean, if he's in his 50s and he still can't hold down a job, and he's barely making it out there, and he didn't have any terrible crisis, or grew up, it had this terrible childhood trauma that would have restricted him. And in 2024, with the technology that we have available to us, there's no excuse for persons not being able to progress. Then, only then, which would be almost impossible, unless you're from a remote area with no education and no access to finances or water or your basic needs, which we don't have that in Antigua. There's nobody that's so far out of it that they can't find a way to progress themselves. But you can't expect somebody fresh out of university to come with a house and a car and their career down packed. Dude, you don't even know what you want until you're in your 30s. You don't even know who you are. Like you're going in, we're just here winging it until you get, I think, when in your 30s, and I guess more clarity will come when you get in your 40 about who you really are. Then you can't expect somebody to come with all the check boxes. And all of us grew up with that, Oh, we want our man to be 6 feet tall, dark, and handsome. He has to have a house and a car and this and that. And this is what we are indoctrinated to create, this unrealistic list for our future partner. And then we are disappointed when we don't get that man on the white horse coming to take us off in the sunset. Nobody's coming, sis. Nobody.
Saran, nobody's coming, sis. Saran, you're killing me today. But you're right. You're right. Let me join with Jason. Jason said, talk the things, sister, talk the things. But seriously though, I do agree that is an unrealistic expectation to expect that people in their 20s are going to have it all together. But that did not come from nowhere, right? That idea. that people are going to be in their 20s and just have it all figured out. I don't know why that is an ideology that is out there, but it very much is. It's the reason why people in their 20s who do not have it all figured out think that there's something wrong with them. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you if you do not have your life all figured out in the 20s. Newsflash, most people do not have their lives all figured out in their 20s. Most of them would like to think that they do, but you actually don't. And sometimes you think you do, but you don't, and you don't know that you don't until you're in your 40s, and then you realize that when you're in your 20s and you thought you had it all figured out, you actually did not have any clue what you were doing. The worst thing is to not know, and to not know that you don't know. It's very bad. I mean, the folly of youth. I include myself, me. I am the youth. Because you really think that you have it all together when you're in your 20s. You don't have a thing together, not a thing. So stop expecting that of yourself and stop expecting that of other people, please. I mean, you have time. You really do have time. Your prefrontal cortex isn't even fully formed until you're 25. So realistically speaking, we expect you to do dumb stuff until you're at least 25. And then after that, you can start pulling it together. You know what I mean? You have time. You have time. But Agatha is laughing. I'm going to turn off my mic. I'm not saying anything else.
That was so funny. I think you asked the question and where this conversation ended up going. But the question was, how does it affect the caregivers' their health and their mortality? That was the question. And then we kind of went off on a tangent.
I don't even know how we ended up here. How did we get here?
I have no clue, but it's so true. But some of the ways that it affects our health and our mortality rate, and you already gave some of the statistics about, the length of time a woman versus a married woman and so forth lives. But ultimately why that happens, again, is because we just put so much on ourselves. And a lot of the expectations, some may be societal, but a lot of it is really what we put on ourselves. It's what we say we need to do for whatever reason. And again, that, we've already covered those grounds. But the way that it affects our or the things that we neglect, let's say, while we are caring for others, is our own well-being, our own health. And in some of the research that I was doing, is like it can even, because sometimes people prevent, going to the doctor. They're so busy doing everything else that they prevent going to the doctor. If there's something wrong with them because they have not been doing, and I need to go and get my yearly physical as well. So I'm talking to myself as well. And I have no excuse because I'm not caring for anybody. So that's not an excuse. But for those that are, taking on that have taken on that role or have been, it has been forced upon them, they don't do the things for themselves that they are even doing for others. And the things that they are giving up to take care of this other person is themselves, their health, their well-being, taking care of themselves physically, mentally, emotionally. And yes, eventually, if that continues to run its course, it will end up in a person, it can be life-threatening. So we absolutely need to pump the brakes wherever we are in this conversation that we're having right now, and just take a look at ourselves. Where am I on this spectrum? Maybe we're not caring for someone, but we're not caring for ourselves either. And so we need to take a look at where we are and how we can make that pivot, make that change in our lives so that we can live longer and healthier and happier. Because it's one thing to live, but you're not really happy, you're not really healthy. We need to take care of every aspect of our lives, spirit, soul, and body. And that's what's going to allow us to live the lives that we desire to live and deserve to live.
Yeah.
You were going to jump in and say something, Saran?
No, I was just totally agreeing, especially with the happy, healthy part at the end, because that's literally my business name,
Yes.
Happy, Healthy
Yes.
You. And it's not just sorry, the physical aspect of working out and eating right, but the mental aspect, the emotional aspect, the spiritual aspect that we often neglect because we think that, people would say, oh, well, if you look good, you feel good. But are you feeling well mentally as well? We do need to, and I think it's a balancing act when you are a caregiver and you also have to care for yourself, because you have to know when you have to take a step back and you have to take a time out on yourself to know that, okay, I'm feeling the burnout coming on, because it's a slow build up. It's not like crash in your face one morning. It's a slow, we mentioned about not just physical exhaustion but mental exhaustion as well, that comes with it, and all the other things that we mentioned before. And so we as caregivers, parents, if you're caring for another human being and you're keeping them alive and well, that you also have to take care of yourself to make sure that you can continue taking care of them. Because if you don't take a break, your body will take a break for you. You will literally just shut down. And you hear people say, but he was good yesterday. She was good this morning. She actually wasn't. He actually wasn't. It's just that they didn't, maybe they just didn't get that chance because they didn't have the time. They're, maybe a single parent, or they're wearing all the hats, juggling all the hats. And just as Alison said the last time, that she didn't have that care. And we take for granted, like took for granted that even growing up, I thought that everybody had support. And, now as an adult, I realize that a lot of people don't have support for simple things. Just having a sibling or another family member there for you to not nothing special, but just somebody you can. I know people who have siblings and they would say, oh, they can't just show up to their house uninvited or without calling ahead of time. I don't know that life. I'm like, what? What do you mean? What you have to do? I just show up to my brother's house. I'm like, hey, I'm outside. And he's like, okay. Because we have that kind of relationship. But I know individuals who have siblings or even parents, aunts, uncles, and they don't have that type of relationship. And I think I took that for granted as well. And that's one of the reasons why I started my health and wellness support group, for people to have support in that capacity, because everybody doesn't have that. And so if you are a caregiver and you're listening and you don't have that support, and you're maybe looking to family members and they're not giving you that support, you may have to look for support elsewhere. Whether it's business, whether it's caregiving, whether it's your health. Studies show, and you don't have to take my word for it, that persons who have support, they do better at recovering from traumatic events, whether it's an illness, whether it's addiction, whether it's having a surgery. That when you have that support, that makes a big difference. That emotional support, that psychological, mental support of somebody being there, knowing that somebody's there for you through thick and thin. And it doesn't have to be a blood relative, because many times we don't get that support from our blood relatives. And that's okay. People are out there who are willing to give you that support. And so we have to look for it if we're not getting it where we are expecting it.
Okay. We need to start winding up. I'm looking at the comment section, so many comments. And please forgive me, listeners, viewers, wherever you're watching, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Please forgive me if I do not highlight every single comment, because there are so many, so many. I'm going to highlight two final comments, and then we are going to wrap up because we're coming up on the top of the hour. This went by really fast, really fast. I want to bring up this first comment, and then I'm going to pull up one other. This one I am highlighting because Latoya is speaking to the cost of mental health care and how this is often the hindrance that caretakers face. So sometimes it's not for a lack of desire, but maybe more for a lack of resources that people do not access the care and the services that they need. How can we provide some alternatives for someone who says, I really do want to access care. I know that I need the care. I am burnt out, but I cannot afford it. What do we say to someone like this? What other options do they have available to them?
Well, I want
So,
to start. I can start. Um, at least for healthcare, I know I can only speak about Antigua. Well, I can speak about other places as well because the complaints are generally the same when it comes to government institutions and resources that are available. And as much as they may not be as much resources in the government sector as the private sector, there are resources available that we can tap into. And so we do need to avail ourselves if we are not able to outsource from a private institution. Also, sometimes we have to create our own support group or even barter. If you have a friend who is like I have a friend who is a therapist, and she can give me some tips, and then I can give her something medical. We there's a trade off, but I think there are always ways that we can get things done. The internet is very resourceful, credible sources, of course, but there are a lot of information out there on the internet that we can get. A lot of the support that I got that I was looking for, especially in business, I got outside of Antigua on the internet from other groups. And that applies to any area that you're in. The internet is there, and so use it. Ask questions. I think sometimes we don't get the support that we need because people don't know that we need support. People don't know what the issue is. And so the more we speak out about whatever it is, it may be something very personal, it may be something very private, something shameful, whatever it is. But we do need to share that information with somebody who is confidential and somebody who can also guide us in the right direction. The confidential person may not be the person who can give you the support, but they may be able to say, hey, Sandra across the road, or my neighbor, or my coworker, or somebody, I know so and so, and they can, so speak up about what it is that you need. I remember during the pandemic, I had a life coach. I still follow her, but not working as her client anymore. And everybody, a lot of people were feeling stuck at home, not being able to go out. And I'm like, what are they talking about? I love being home. And my problem, my problem was that everybody else was home. I wanted them to leave and leave me home alone. And so I was there complaining to her, like, like, how can I get rid of, like, rid of them? Not rid of them, but like, I want space still, even though we're all home. And she's like, just ask for it. And I did. And so I got my alone time. Everybody was still home, but I was in the room from a particular time by myself, uninterrupted, because I asked for it. Because the persons I was living with, they had no idea that I wanted to be alone. They know I love being at home, but I like to be at home alone. And so she said, just ask for it. Whatever you need, just ask. Because we just assume that people know what we need, and they don't. So just ask.
Good point. And for me, what I wanted to say in regards to that is I don't know if where Latoya lives, But actually, what Dr. Saran mentioned is just maybe doing a little research and maybe looking into some unconventional ways to get what you need, not maybe anything formal or even quote unquote professional for that matter. But for those who live in Dangriga, Belize, so I mentioned at the top of our conversation that we have a group called Mental Health Advocates Dangriga. And so we just, like I said, just come together, share resources, have different activities that we do to bring awareness to the mental health crisis. And in addition to that, I do provide counseling free of charge for the community. So for those who live here, and it can also be something that can be done virtually. Again, we just need to find someone that we feel comfortable with, feel as if though that person can give us some sound advice, wisdom, guidance, help, and just find that support, because it is so vitally important to have support, especially as a caretaker. And some of it you have to create yourself, as Dr. Saran said. Just ask
And
for what
just
you need.
and just to add a little bit more to that, there are some places that accept, they charge based on your income. So if your income is limited, um, uh, what you may need to pay may not be quite as much. And also, I don't know if this is Latoya's case, but I think people need to kind of look at where their finances are and see where you can cut some things or remove some things, um, you know, because mental health is a priority. So if, for example, you're spending, $200 on your kids' tennis shoes, or you're spending so many, you go to Starbucks 4 times a week and that's $50 there, for some therapists, that's what they charge for therapy for the week. So just look at what your finances are. For those that absolutely just can't find it, you just can't. But for some of us, I think there are places where we can make some changes, remove some things, so that we can make sure that what we need to have, which is, taking care of our mental health, that we are able to do that. It's not the case for everybody, but for those of us that can, look and see where you can, make some changes, and where you can take some money out of some things that are not necessities. They may be things you like, but if your cable is $150, maybe you don't need cable. Maybe you need a therapist. Just saying.
Okay, Pam.
I'm just noticing that Latoya said she's from Antigua. I'm in Antigua. I have a free health and wellness support group. There are other free mental health support groups from Antigua as well. And just to plug in here, I do have a free 3-day challenge coming up this week, from Tuesday to Thursday, and that's geared towards moms, especially getting their health back after they have a baby. So if that applies to you, you can check out my page. That's a happy, healthy you, body, mind, soul. But Antigua has resources. I know we're small, but people are doing things in the background. I'm one of those people doing things in the background that may not be like all over the news, but I'm one of them. Therese is Antiguan, but she's in the US. She has this page is one of, I would say this page was my therapist during the pandemic, even afterwards. I don't tune in as much, but this is another way that you can get support. We may not find it on the ground, like in person, but virtually. Sometimes I find that people who don't know you support you more than people who know you, because they know all the skeletons in your closet, and we have grudges, and we have, bickering. But as someone once told me, that everybody's going to disappoint you at some point in time in your life, for some reason, because we're human, and so that's part of it, and learning about the disappointments and learning about other things that may make you sad, and all the other uncomfortable, sad emotions that we don't like to embrace. We have to embrace all of them, the sad and the happy moments, because it makes us who we are. It makes us human.
Absolutely. The only thing I would add to that for Latoya is, build community. One of the things that we were going to touch on today, we're out of time, but we wanted to talk about how sisterhood could help in alleviating caregiver burnout. I want to recommend that to Latoya. I don't know if you have a sister circle, and your circle does not have to be big. Your circle does not have to be big. Your circle could be 2 persons. It's still a circle. Your circle doesn't need to be large, it just needs to be powerful. You need community. Build community with like-minded people, people who understand your experiences, who have similar experiences, and who you can meet up with to say, oh my goodness, that happened to you too. What did you do? How did you handle it? That type of support is invaluable. That is like free group therapy right there. Build community. Another thing that I want to say, you live on an island. You live on an island, find yourself in the water. Water is so therapeutic. Water is so therapeutic. You know that is one of the ways that we treat panic disorder and anxiety disorder and so on in psychotherapy. We send them into the bathroom. You're having a panic attack, go into the bathroom and stand at your sink and run some water over your hands or wet your face. Water literally has electrodes that connect with whatever electricity is in the human body, and it pulls you out of the anxiety attack. Also, grounding is good. Go outside. You live on a tropical island, take off your shoes and your socks and go outside and stand on the earth. The earth also has electricity that we can connect the human body with that helps to ground you. Go outside and stand with your bare feet on the soil, not on concrete, on the soil, and just do some breath work. Very, very helpful. Meditate. You don't have to be an expert veteran meditator sitting down with your legs crossed for an hour. If you meditate for 5 minutes a day, that's a game changer. 5 minutes, just 5 minutes. Get up early in the morning before everybody in the house is up and do a 5-minute guided meditation. You can find millions of them on YouTube for free. So those are just a couple of things that occur to me. I want to pull up one final question. Last question. I promise you that I'm pulling up today, and only because I think this is really important. Natalie is asking, unfortunately, we understand these fundamentals too late. So how do we nurture better caregiver self-care practices in our youth? This feels like it could be a whole podcast, but let's see if we can respond to it in 5 minutes.
Well, I want to start by saying that we have to unlearn a lot of things first and then relearn so that we can teach our youths. So it starts with us. When we know better, we should be doing better. And there are things that we're going to automatically do because of how we were taught or how we learned it. We have to give ourselves grace again. And we have to recognize that this is the way that we grew up, and things that we learn in childhood is harder to change than if we learn it as an adult. So imagine trying to erase a bad habit from childhood in your adulthood and then trying to reinforce it as an adult. And so it becomes a harder task. That's why it's so easy to teach children like languages or new skill. They pick up things very quickly, they absorb. But then when the brain set in and the cement hard, it's difficult to drill through that, and so that we can create a new habit. So when you learn a new habit, you unlearn and then relearn that new habit, then you will have that capability to pass it on. But until you unlearn and relearn, you wouldn't know. If if you don't know, you just don't know, right? And you won't be able to teach it.
Yeah. I am going to throw in this. Check out post-traumatic slave syndrome. Not post-traumatic stress disorder, post-traumatic slave syndrome or post-traumatic slave disorder. Check this out. It is the thing, or it is the thing that creates this belief that when you are sitting still and doing nothing, that there is something wrong with you. The inability to just be still, the inability to just bring your body to a full stop without worrying about the fact that you are not doing anything in that moment and that you should be doing something in that moment. You know, that type of mindset where you literally cannot relax. And we raise our children that way. I know I was raised that way, where you're sitting down and it's like it's a bad thing for you to be sitting down. Why are you sitting down? Why are you not doing anything? You know what I mean? Like to sit down, to just stop and relax is a bad thing. It's considered laziness. You know, you're being slothful. You're always supposed to be busy. You're supposed to just be going, 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 going. And this is particularly true for Black women. Can't sit still. You can't stop. And even when you stop, you're sitting down, your brain is thinking about the fact that I should be doing something. I don't know why I'm just sitting down here. You can't relax. You feel bad and you feel guilty for relaxing. Because as a slave, you're not allowed to do that, except that we're not slaves anymore.
Right.
Our brains just don't know it. Right? And a lot of us were raised that way, and many people might still be raising their children that way, where you just I know a lot of Caribbean parents that are still like that. They just can't see the children just sitting and doing nothing. It's like it's a foreign concept. You're not supposed to just be sitting doing nothing. There's something wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. When you're sitting and doing nothing, you're actually doing something. You're resting. You're being still. And stillness is important, right? That's why when I have a day that I have decided is my day to stay in bed, and anybody calls me to ask me, I have this whatever. You can see a client. No, I'm busy today. I'm busy. No, but I thought you said Sundays were your day off. Yeah, but it is. I'm busy. I'm busy resting. I'm busy resting. Me taking a day to do nothing, that's me doing something. I'm doing something very important on that day. I'm busy resting, right? I know that sounds like an oxymoron. Go and ask your English teacher whether or not that is grammatically correct. But on a serious note, though, we need to normalize doing nothing. Normalize it. Sometimes you just need to stop. You can't kill work. Work will kill you. Work will never finish. If you don't finish everything today, tomorrow is another day. Relax. Leave something for tomorrow. Normalize being still. Normalize rest without guilt. That is one of the things that we need to ingrain in our young people, instead of raising them to think that they're lazy for wanting to rest. That's my contribution to that question.
I was going to say something. I'm sorry, I'm fading fast. So let me just say this, and I know we're going to be off in a second. But what I was going to say to that, we do have a generation of young people, and maybe I'm off base with this. And yes, there may be that mindset of always going and doing, but I think this generation is a lot selfish. And they are not very interested in caring about anybody else but themselves, maybe because they're young. And I don't know if that is just, the opposite of giving too much, as, in our generation and before us were taught to believe. But yeah, I don't know. I have an opposite perception when it comes to our generation. I think they need to actually be taught to a certain degree. And I agree with everything that you said, Therese, but to be taught how to be more compassionate and how to be more caring to a certain extent, and probably in different contexts, or probably a different conversation for a different day. But that's what I wanted to actually say about that. But if we are going to teach them to be compassionate, Jill said selfish and lazy. If we are going to teach them to not take on those responsibilities, we do need to start at an early age. Just to normalize being still, because I think a lot of our kids, again, a different conversation, have ADHD, to be honest. So that's a different conversation for a different day. But yeah, but I think if we're going to answer the question, how we can normalize being still and taking care of in taking care of themselves and not feeling the need to actually be going and doing all the time. And I think it's a balance. There needs to be a balance where that is concerned.
Yeah,
Because
I
I
agree.
think I agree as well. But I think that sometimes we feel like being busy equals being productive. And it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you're constantly on the run and always doing something, at the end of the day, can you really say what you produced, or can you really say what you have done? I think we feel, I don't know, probably especially like women, that if we are not busy, that something is wrong. And so we take rest to be like we're being lazy, but it's not. God has blessed us with the ability to rest, and we just need to be able to take that gift, because you can't do everything. You just can't. That's where the burnout comes from. Not just being a caregiver, but just feeling like you have to do everything. And at the end of the day, none of it is productive or producing any type of fruit or anything that you can say you enjoy. So, there is something to be said about the younger generation, but I do think that they need to understand the difference between being busy and being productive. And I want to put a plug for a book that I just recommend to everybody. It's called Sacred Rest. And I told some of our panelists about it, but it's just the different type of rest that God has blessed us with, and being able to still, do what needs to be done, but also enjoying it as you go along, and not, dealing with the fear and the, depression, and, and being able to enjoy God's, creativity. And it's a really great book. But just the idea that, you can, it doesn't mean you stop working. Rest doesn't mean stop working. But you just need to be able to, whatever it is that you're doing, see some fruit come out of it, so that it's not all, in vain. So the name of the book is Sacred Rest.
Mm-hmm. All right. And on that note, we have to end this podcast here. This conversation could keep going and going and going and going. Natalie says she's on it. She's already looking for Sacred Rest, going to look for it.
Yes.
Yes, it's on Amazon. It is on Amazon. I found one there. So I want to thank you, ladies, so very, very, very much for coming on today, for giving me a piece of your Sunday, because I know there are other things you could be doing on this beautiful Sunday. I appreciate you so very much.
Resting, sleeping.
You could be resting and sleeping. I know, right? But this is so much more fun, isn't it? So, yes, and Jill made it even more fun. Jill has been entertaining us in the chat section. Thank you. Thank you, ladies, so much for being here with me to unpack this very, very important topic today. And thank you also to the people who have been interacting with us in the chat section. I love you all. Thank you so much for your continued support of the Always a Queen, the Metamorphosis platform. I really appreciate that. The platform wouldn't be here without you guys. You are the reason that Always the Queen became a thing. Always the Queen used to be just a little Facebook group with maybe about 100 people. Now we have thousands of followers. And so I am so grateful. I am so grateful. And I will never get tired. I will never get tired of doing this work. I really love what I do, and you guys make it even more enjoyable for me. So thank you so very much. Um, and on that note, I don't know if the ladies have any other parting shot that you want to give. You have any parting shot that you want to give, or are we just going to wrap it up here?
We can. It was great. It was great. I had a really good time. Thank you so much for creating the platform, because here we are, right?
Yes.
Learning and
Yes.
growing.
Yes. And before I go out, please, when you get on Facebook, look for Saran's page, A Happy, Healthy You, Mind, Body, and Soul. You can join that group. You can get free support there. And also look for Mental Health Advocates Dan Grigger, also on Facebook, because that's another free resource that you can take advantage of. And of course, Always the Queen, the Metamorphosis is a free resource too. All of this information that you're getting here today is free. Do not waste it, and share it. Share it with your friends and family. All of these podcasts are recorded. They're on the platform available to you. Don't waste it. All right. So, with that being said, I leave you all with love and light. And remember to be a beautiful week.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.